So in this video, I'm quickly going to go over how to add plugins to WordPress. Now, plugins are absolutely fantastic tools. They're like little bits of code you can add to your website that will perform some kind of function for your website. So it stops you having to hire someone to go do all this yucky coding stuff in WordPress, because one of the good things about WordPress is that you never have to touch code or be technical really, and one of those reasons is because there's like thousands of plugins out there that you can get to sort of do anything you want. Now, exactly what plugins you're going to end up needing for your site will depend on your site and what you want it to do, how you want it to look, etc. But there are some plugins that I would recommend basically for everyone, and that's what we're going to go through in this video. I'm going to add them to my site so that you can see how to do it yourself. And the good part about this too is then when you go find your own plugins later, when you want to do something, like say you want to add something on the sidebar of your site which shows the most popular blog posts on your site, you know, that's a plugin, you can go get it. And you'll know how, because we'll go through this. Now, as you can see, when I went to the plugins screen, there's some plugins that are installed by default. Now, these will be slightly differently depending on what host you use, but they're usually about all these. So this Loganizer was that limit login, so that you can only try 3 times before it has an issue. So we'll just leave that. There's this Hello Dolly plugin, which I don't really get. It's a bit stupid, but it seems to always be included. So we'll delete that. Now, there is a downside in plugins, and that is like the more you have, the more you're going to slow down the site and the more potential issues you cause, because they might like sort of play badly together. So although plugins are great and you should definitely use them, you don't want to have ones unless you kind of really need to have them, because they might cause some issue down the line. And it's best just not even have them at all if they're no good. So delete them, like Hello Dolly, you don't need it. Then you have other ones like this Akismet, which I definitely do recommend. Now, at the moment, it's not active. I can tell that because it has this activate. It doesn't look like how this Loganizer. So this Loganizer is already working. You can see it says deactivate instead of activate. So that's working at the moment. That's great. Akismet is not. And I suggest you do get it working. Now, Akismet is basically a spam checker. So when you get comments, it'll put them in like a spam folder if they seem spammy. So I definitely recommend it, because you're going to get spam comments, unfortunately. And I find it takes care of most of them. Now, like it says, it has some descriptions here. You have to activate it, then you have to sign up to get a plan to get an API key and go to their configuration page and save it. Now, that might sound slightly complicated. I promise it's not, and it's free. I mean, it will ask you to spend money, but you don't need to. You can just get the free account, and that's absolutely fine. I have free accounts for everything. It's all good. So I do recommend you do that. Now, if it's not here by default, you will have to go add it. Like I'll show you in a minute when I add a different one, but most probably it'll be here by default. So you can do activate. And then you're going to have to go here and activate the account with an API key. Now, like I said, to get that, you need to log in and sign up now. So I already have an account, so I can go get one that way. But you're going to need to, if you don't already get one, you're basically just going to do what it says, sign up and get one. If you've got a WordPress.com account, then you can use that to get in. But it's all very straightforward. You'll end up with an API key that you just copy in here and do use this key, and then it will all just work for you. So it's really good like that. But I want to concentrate in here about adding new plugins. So we're going to go plugins, add new. Now, all the ones I'm adding here, I've listed in the code, so you can copy the names from there. But basically, you just want to search. Now, something that you're probably definitely going to want is a contact form. So you can just have a contact us page. People can fill it in and it emails to you. It's super easy with a form. Now, my favorite one is contact form 7. It's just the most straightforward. You don't really even have to do anything to make it work. It just does. So we'll get that one. As you can see, like I just put in contact form 7. There's a million of them. So there are so many plugins available. But all we need to do is press install now for contact form 7. Okay, it's installed it. Press activate because we want it to work. And now you'll see it listed here. So it's all set to go when we want to build our contact page, which we'll do in a future step. So for now, let's just add some more. So we want to add another new one. So we're going to add WP Smush, or Smush, I don't know. This is a good free one just for optimizing your images. So it means when you upload an image, you'll just try and reduce the image file size, which will help your website be faster. So that's a really handy thing to have on here as well. So we'll install that and activate that. So that will just start compressing images. It's got a lovely little page. So some plugins have setting pages, some don't. Okay, so now we come back to the plugin screen and we can add the next plugin that I think that you should install, which is Yoast SEO. So we can search for that. And this is a great plugin for doing lots of things that help with your search engine optimization, SEO on your site. Now you don't need to worry too much about SEO at the moment, but it's just good to have this plugin from the beginning and just do a couple of settings, because it will help you overall as you go forward with your SEO. And you can always play around with individual settings, you know, much later if you decide to get into SEO. But there's a couple of things you can do right now which will help. So we install that straight away and we activate it. Okay, now it likes to show you issues up here, which I ignore. I don't always agree with a lot of what the plugin does, but it does have some really useful settings. So we come into it. Now, mostly by default, it's pretty good and you don't have to do too much. But there are some things that we're going to want to change. Okay, now to start with, go to this Features tab. Okay, now we want to enable the advanced settings. And let's get rid of this admin bar because I personally find that really annoying. Okay, so that got rid of that up there. And now it gives you all these options down in this sidebar over here. So there's just a couple to play with that I would do straight away. Now one is advanced and permalinks. Now we'll talk about categories more later, but basically it's a way to categorize the articles and posts you put on your website. Now when you go to that, you sort of get this ugly category in the category URL. So I would personally remove that. And that's important to do right now if you think you're going to want to, because it does change URLs. Okay, there's some other settings, but that's okay for now. So we'll just do save changes. Okay, now there's one more thing I'd recommend you do now too, which is go to this titles and meta. Now there's lots of useful stuff in here that you might want to change later, like changing the titles of the pages. Now the titles are what show up here. Okay, so if you ever want to change what it says up there by default, you can do that in here. But what I would look at right away is these archives. Now, it's bad SEO to have your web post like copied multiple times on your website. And basically, by default, WordPress has lots of what they call archives, which is lots of ways to sort of sort all your articles. And it kind of means that it looks to Google like you have your article like 10 times on your site. So you're like, that just doesn't look good from an SEO perspective. So I recommend you go and disable some of these archives if you won't need it. You can always enable them again later, which isn't an issue at all. So if you don't need them right now, just get rid of them. If you change your mind later, just come and put them back. So author archives. Now, unless you're going to have multiple authors on the website, you're going to want to disable that. That basically, if it's enabled, it means that say you have an author called Sharon and one called Josh, that if someone clicks on the author name, they'll be taken to all their posts. Now, if you only have one author on the site, that's just not necessary because the whole blog is showing all their articles. So I would disable that. The other one, which I find is unnecessary, is this date archive. So I would disable that as well. I mean, you can keep it if you want. It just means that, say, you could go to June 2016 and see all the articles from then. Okay, so I would just do that and save changes. And that's all I would worry about right now for Yoast SEO. Now there's just one more plugin I want to show you, so we'll just go to add new. Now, if you selected when you set up your hosting for them to back up your site, and you're sure they're backing up well, you know, you won't have any issues, then you don't need to do this step. But a plugin that I like using for backups is called Duplicator. Now, there is a free and a paid version. I use both across my websites. I use the paid version for my bigger, more important sites because it backs up everything automatically and moves it somewhere for me, so that's great. When you're starting out, you know, just this free one will be fine. It just means you have to remember to back it up yourself regularly. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. So I've installed Duplicator. We can click to manage to say I want to back up my website right now. We just do create new. You can leave everything how it is. It is a really fabulous plugin. It's also a good plugin if you ever need to move hosting. I suggest you come back and look at this. It's what I use to move sites between hosts. So we just go build. It's basically building a little package and an install file. Now all you need to do is download both those files and put them somewhere safe, and then you have a backup. So if anything ever happened to your site, you could recreate it from those files, and the people who made Duplicator have a really good how-to file on how to do that. So basically, they're the plugins that I would start with, and whenever you want to add new ones, you just come to this section and click Add New.